Welcome to the podcast editing and support show. My name is Dave. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go. We're going to start the episode right now. Happy to have you here. Let's do this. All right. Welcome back to the podcast editing and support show. I'm glad to be here with you. My name is Dave. I'm here in Ontario, Canada. Thanks for checking out the podcast. We're seeing we've got listeners around the world. Makes me super happy and proud to be here with you. So thank you for taking time to be here. We are going to look at over the next few episodes around the podcast editing and support terms of use. Now, this isn't some kind of contract that I'm trying to get you to sign. This is terms of use as far as the terms that we use. See what I did there? The terms that we use in podcast editing and support to kind of clarify so that we're all kind of talking the same language. You know, when you say one thing, but you think people are understanding you, but they hear a different word or different term, or they think of it differently than you do, and you don't communicate properly, understanding the terms of use around podcast editing and support will help you to communicate, get things done, and just have a good time as a podcast host and a podcast editor. So how do we put these terms of use to work for us? Today, I want to look at some editing terms of use and kind of dispel and kind of clarify some of these terms that we throw around between podcast hosts, podcast editors, and podcast support people in the space, just to kind of level the playing field. And we all can talk the same language, understand each other, and communicate better. So all around podcast editing, there are four terms I want to bring up here. There's many more things we can talk about, but that's why we have more episodes, so you'll come back. See what I'm doing? You'll come back, and I appreciate you being here. Four things I want to talk about in editing. First one is audio editing.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
What's audio editing, Dave? What are we talking about here? Can you clarify? We can also say video editing for our friends that love video. But audio editing is basically just the process of manipulating and rearranging the audio files to create a final, polished podcast episode. This includes cutting out the mistakes, adding in sound effects like this, and just adjusting the audio levels overall to make for a great listening experience for your listeners. That's audio editing. Very simple. Again, you can also compare that to video editing, but for our context for our episode today, we're just focusing on audio. So it's basically just doing all of the work behind the scenes to make a good finished product for your listeners. That is audio editing. So when you're reaching out and having conversation and the term audio editing comes up, that's what we're talking about. The second one is noise reduction.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Okay, well, that's almost in the name, right? Noise reduction of noise, right? It's kind of like when you're back in school. Remember when you have those questions? What is noise reduction? Noise reduction is the reduction of noise. You just do it backwards. And so your question becomes your answer. And your answer is the question. And it's just a circle of life. Kind of a Hakuna Matata, Lion King, holding it up. You get what I'm saying. So noise reduction is basically that. You're just reducing the noise in the podcast. What is the noise? What are we talking about? So background noise, unwanted sounds, lip smacks, somebody hitting their desk, hitting their microphone, big noises, big sounds, a sneeze, a cough, that kind of stuff. Taking those out of the podcast to improve audio clarity. Again, why? For the listener. That's noise reduction. The next one is mixing.
You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
So when a podcast host reaches out to a podcast editor, or the other way around, and the topic of mixing comes up, this isn't making a drink, like a Cosmopolitan or a Long Island iced tea. No. That's a different type of mixing. The mixing we're talking about is taking multiple audio tracks, say voice, music, and effects, and putting them all into a single, cohesive, final track. All of the different elements, all working in concert with each other to give you a good final mix. That's what mixing is. Simply doing all of these things, arranging a puzzle, okay? All these different pieces all fit together and you get a nice picture when you're all done. I'm not a puzzle person. Are you a puzzle person? I'm not. I am really not a puzzle person. My wife loves them, and she'll spend hours upon hours creating these puzzles, which then she crunches up, throws back in a box, puts it on the shelf, and gets a new puzzle out. I just, I don't like the part of putting it all back in the box. That feels like, I don't know. I'm just not a puzzle person. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. If you're a puzzle person, I love you, but I just don't get it. I do get mixing, and the fact that we're going to take all these different pieces, put them together, and then do this again for who? For who, Dave? For the listener. Everything for the listener. That's mixing. The last one is different than mixing. Okay? Mixing is assembling all the pieces. The last one that we're talking about here in this episode is mastering.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
So when you master something, it's like you get really good at it. So like when you're really good at golf, right? You master golf. If you become a master plumber, you're really good at plumbing. You can teach it. Master carpenter, right? These are all things where people are like top of the game. What is it for audio? What is it for editing? Mastering is just simply the final step in audio post-production. What's post-production? It's what happens after the recording. Just ensures the consistent sound quality across all of the episodes so that you don't have episode 1 is super loud, episode 2 is super quiet, like really quiet. I can hardly hear you. That kind of thing. You want to make sure all of your episodes are consistent in volume, in dynamics, that from if you listen to episode 1 and then go to episode 2, you should have the same listening experience. Mastering is that component of the editing process. It's ensuring that consistent quality sound across all the episodes and optimizing the audio for various playback devices. What do I mean by that? What are you listening to this episode on right now? On your phone? Do you have headphones in? Earbuds? Big can headphones that cover your whole ear? Sound canceling headphones so you can't hear anything else except what you're hearing right now? Are you in your car? Are you on the train? Are you in a subway tunnel? Are you on an airplane? Are you driving down the highway and the sound of your tires are really, really loud and you get that hum from the wheels as they spin down the road? All of these things are competing for the attention of your listener. So you want to make sure that when you create a podcast, it is not so loud that your listeners are really struggling because of the overall volume, or so quiet that you're cranking the volume up so high that if something else happens, it's going to blow them out of the water. You want consistency in your editing. Why is this important? Because at the end of the day, there's someone that's going to press play on this episode. There's someone who's going to be listening to what you have to put out in the world. And by you understanding audio editing, noise reduction, mixing and mastering, you'll be able to have a better conversation with your podcast editor and support person. And podcast editors and support people, you can also then educate your podcast host on what you're looking for from them as a host so that you can work together to have the best episodes possible. Now, if you're like, Dave, I'm a podcaster and I don't have time to do any of this, then head over to my website, podcasteditingandsupport.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. I'm sure that we can work out something where I can help you and I can be that editor for you. I would love to support you. So reach out to me today at podcasteditingandsupport.com. And I look forward to having you back as we're going to talk about the next episode. We're going to talk about the producing side around editing. So we're going to get into the terms all around producing here on the Podcast Editing and Support Show. Thank you for being here. Real short episode, but I just wanted to share some of these terms with you. And if I've missed a term around audio editing, let me know. Again, podcasteditingandsupport.com. SpeakPipe is right there. Leave me a voice message, and I will add your content to this episode for a future re-release so that we don't miss anything, because you know what I don't, and I'd love to hear from you as well. Thank you for being here. Catch you on the next episode when we talk about producing terms around podcast editing and support. Thanks for being here. Talk soon. Thanks for listening to the Podcast Editing and Support Show. Visit us at podcasteditingandsupport.com, podcasteditingandsupport.com. We would love to help you find a great podcast editor, or if you want to hire us, we would love to work with you. Podcasteditingandsupport.com. Catch you on the next episode. Take care.